Hey guys, so by the title you understand what I am doing. So yeah, without wasting time, I will start with part 2 of season 20.
Letters to Santa.
The last time we saw Percy and Harold share an episode was back in season 6 and a bad day for Harold. So, to see them back together for the first time in 14 years with this episode really makes them just more special. For the flashback, yes, it's based on the railway series, not the TV series. But do I care? No. As long as they keep true to the show's roots, which they're not keeping anymore, I'm fine with it. Watched like several episodes of this season. I love about Letter of Santa's technicality in terms of like railway operation or mail services, and the usage of Jeremy was good too here. I said it before, I'll say it again. Helen Farrell is probably my favorite Thomas Rice currently. I love how she can mix it up with the elements of life stories and action-packed, suspenseful adventures. And in both, she's able to provide funny character moments. Percy and Harold's relationship reflects the classic series, and also like how Percy wanted to help Harold later on. A great episode. 9.5 out of 10.
Love me tender.
Another fan favorite of season 20. Does it hold up? Yes, it does. It's basically Twin Trouble from season 6 with Snow. Only just that this has a longer runtime and the basic elements are improved upon. Donald and Douglas are at their best here. And I really love how much they care for each other, even after petty arguments. I don't mind their referred to as brothers rather than twins, but they're still related anyways. And yes, I'm gonna bring up Rob Ragshaw now voicing Donald. Getting used to it, I believe that was done to give Donald and Douglas their own distinct personalities, while Douglas is still being voiced by Joe Mills, I believe. I also like Donald and Douglas's theme a lot, which in my opinion is on par with Junior and Campbell's theme. Like, don't get me wrong, their themes are also excellent, but Chris Renshaw has proven himself. I'll talk about the music later on. To be honest, there's very little I can say about Love Me Tender that hasn't been said. Pretty much everyone's made my job reviewing this episode much easier. So, give it a watch and you will see why it's so brilliant. 9.5 out of 10. I just now realized I forgot to rate Letters to Santa, so 9.5 out of 10. This is also very good.
The rail car and the coaches.
I'm going to say this right now. Along with Ryan and Daisy, this is one of my favorite episodes of season 20. What else to say now? I mean, what do I say about this episode? I like it a lot. This is probably the most funniest episode of the entire show. And it's down to the interactions between Daisy, Annie and Clarabelle. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. Is Daisy out of character? No. Daisy hasn't been in the TV series for around 10 years. So in that time frame, I don't think kids know who Daisy is or what her persona is like. So, during season 20, Daisy has so far shown a few different shades of a character. Her laziness in Ryan and Daisy, her stubbornness in the way she does it, and her pride in this episode. I love that they're giving Daisy far more love than she got in the classic era. It's also far more effective than James's characterization, which feels very one-dimensional. I've also really enjoyed an incredible Clarabelle in recent years, and this episode is no exception. I mean, did anyone expect them to be as cheeky as they were here? I didn't, and I like it how it expands on the character. They might be stern when Thomas gets ahead of himself, but even they appreciate a good joke in a while. I think Daisy's reaction to their teasing was priceless. Plus, have you ever imagined coaches being punished for misbehaving? That I would like to see more of. And that brings me to the ending. Yes, I find it funny actually. Of course, not everybody will agree, and I get that. Some say the punishment was far too extreme, as all Annie and Clarabelle did was play a trick on Daisy. For me, it was handled better than most episodes. Because, I know it's been said before, but it's also why the joke at the end of, an episode like Duck and the Slip Coaches fall flat. Had James been left without a space at Tidman Sheds, and Aunt Emily, who didn't really serve any purpose other than a stupid fan service, that might have worked better. Like was the scene.
Hip, hip, hooray! It just goes to show there really are only two ways of doing things. The wrong way or the great Western way.
Some would say that Daisy didn't get a punishment. Actually yes, she did get one. Imagine in your workplace you are forced to work with somebody who you despise. That's a relatable situation. They worked on this in this episode. Even if you don't want to work with the people you hate, you can't go against the boss's orders, which in this case is a top of mat. Like that, Daisy did not have any choice but to work with Annie and Clarabelle. Another aspect about the ending is how it goes against the typical apology ending we have come to expect. Anyways, there's not much else to say really about the Rilke and the coaches. For me, it's fun to watch from start to finish. 10 out of 10.
Cautious Connor.
An episode where a big engine has a confidence knock after a mishap. Now that sounds like an interesting episode, but does it pay off? I would say it does greatly. Connor and Steven were great in this episode, the latter especially. I really liked when he makes the comment about Connor's youth, very much like old people commenting on younger people's actions, being similar to their in the youth. But Steven really shone through with his pep talk near the end. Who knew that the Sodos rocket could be badass like that at his age? And of course, Connor's situation is completely relatable. So, yeah, one incident can really knock down one's confidence down a peg. Other tidbits that I really like are Millie's role and this POV shot on the bolt of Connor's side rod, and then this dialogue.
Railway, it would have been quicker by camel.
Ah, grumpy passenger. We all like you in the fandom. Whilst I liked the episode, I think Thomas could have been replaced with Caitlin. It would have given more on Connor and Caitlin's relationship, but great episode overall. 8.5 out of 10.
Looking about.
For the first time in a long time, we see the pack return in an episode. Is the grand fair all around? Well, yes, for the most part. The pack members portray how they usually are. I like how they portrayed Oliver in particular. They make it seem like he's the leader. And Jack and Alfie were pretty good too. And I like how Oliver's the one to scold Max and Monty. and despite being young engines, they get on whatever job they're given. Sorry, not engines, vehicles. Sure, getting character right is a standard for any episode, but I really like when they're written correctly and in this way. There's also one more problem. Did Max and Monty not see the tracks? Though it is debatable. Also, where's Miss Jenny? Did Ark or Jan did not have a render for her already? That said, the policeman was pretty good too, and the dialogue from him felt very natural.
Hello. Max and Monty, your tipping of debris has caused confusion and delay to the building works and the railway.
Sorry, officer.
You must always dispose of building waste safely at the dump. And that's where I expect you to take the rest of that rubble you left on the tracks before morning.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
And no more mucking about!
Overall, whilst the episode felt a little disjointed, I liked it a lot, and it was overall good. It's nice to see the pack officially be a part of the TV series once more, and I would love to see them more often. 8 out of 10.
All in vain.
When this episode was announced, I was a little skeptical with it because I was nervous after Pouty James of what James' character was going to be like. As for the episode itself, this took Pouty James' basic elements and improved them by a lot. Not only is James's character genuine, he actually shows there's more to him than thinking how important he is or how important his paintwork is. Plus, he's been given an important job and really wants to make a good impression on the mayor. And when he gets dirty, rather than freak out like you would expect, he does what he can do. Those mishaps on the chin. And when Edward offers to help, James politely declines, as he wants to please the Fat Controller by doing all of his own jobs himself. Speaking of which, Edward was great here. We haven't seen him and James start together for years, and to expand on their relationship after Old Iron was great. It was even funny to see Edward imitate James when he picked up the mayor and the Fat Controller. On the whole, it's a great episode with funny moments, and it managed to salvage James's character by a bit. Not a lot, but it's still good. 8.5 out of 10.
Buckle tracks and bumpy trucks.
This episode was, well, a little weird, to be honest. I like the basic idea and the technicalities of a railway and the dangers it has during each season and climax. I like that a lot, of how they introduced that into this episode. There's a subplot about the Fat Controller, which, to be honest, is actually kind of funny. Even if it takes his, monkey status up to 11. And then we have this reference.
Tom, don't even think about leaving without your hat.
Oh,
Where were you?
And then there's the goat scene.
here. You can have it. That's the last I'll be seeing of that. Ah! Oh. Oh. Bother.
And then this line.
Oh, the indignity. That's my line.
Amidst the humor, there's the scientific aspect of the episode. White reflects heat, and black absorbs it. So if that was the case, why is the Fat Controller still wearing his black jacket? So George had not told him to take it off? And despite what many would think, rails being painted white actually does happen on real life railways. The other characters were really good in their roles too. I certainly like how Bell reminds Flynn that there's a fire nearby and it took priority over a derailment. Toby was great at the end too. It's nice to see a more cheeky side to him for dirty objects for context. On the whole, while slightly disjointed at points, buckle tracks and bumpy trucks is a good watch, but it could use some tweaking. 7 out of 10.
Mike's whistle. Tit for tat. Useful railway.
In Sodo's Legend of the Lost Treasure, when the miniature railway appeared, it was the first time in a long time that characters were brought into the show from the railway series. There were multiple stories that people working on the classic series couldn't have adapted. The crew had a difficult time filming the narrow gauge sets during season 4. So much so that they had to build new large ones for the next season. Imagine having to work with props smaller than that. But the show is animated now, and so anything can be done. And here's a miniature railway now. Not only did they bring railway series characters in the series, but they also adapted railway series stories. If we don't count The Adventure Begins, then the last adaptation was in season 4 Mind That Bike, which was very, very long back. Of course, they had to take some liberties, like changing the dialogue a little or changing the elements of the story, and people complain about the changes and I don't get them. This is an adaptation. Even in the classic series, many changes were made to the story. And like The Adventure Begins, I like the changes and flair they added to the stories. Some of the surprises in the episodes were the human character interaction. I was not expecting the drivers to have such big roles and interact with the engines. I like also how they rendered Teddy Boston and an Audrey model for this episode as the visitors. I was also surprised that they used Willie the farmer and referred to him by name. I was thinking they were going to use Trevor. And I was blown away that they used Mr. Fergus Duncan as a small controller. Something which even the railway series did not do was by referring to him by name. I was thinking they were going to use Mr. Percival. I like their themes too. I like how it is a rendition of Never Overlook a Little Engine, and I hope that they associate the trio in the future with this theme.
There are 3 very small engines that work on the miniature railway. And their names are Rex, Mike and Bert. Rex, Mike and Bert are so small that when standing, their drivers are taller than their cabs.
What about the trio themselves? They were excellently done too. But we're rather sensitive and get things mixed up, like moving trains and world traffic. Mike is hot-tempered and tends to act before he thinks, and dislikes passenger trains. Rex is cheeky, occasionally overconfident, and even comes up with a few rhymes of his own. They shine through their own respective episodes, and that makes for great humor. Speaking of which, the humor is great too. It is seriously nailed there and it feels very natural. Some examples would be:
You hate
going to be late and miss my connection.
Oh, it's sweet. Oh, it's so lovely. What a cute little steam engine.
Cover there.
Blah, blah, blah. Lovely day. What a cute little steam engine.
Oh, they're so cute. And so tiny. Oh, look, Daddy. Look at them.
I know. It's just like a toy railway, isn't it?
A toy railway indeed. Not really you, Doug. I never knew you could boil an egg on a steam whistle. Neither did I. And I don't recommend it.
All right. Don't go on about it, Doug.
No, there was a cow on the line. And a problem with my whistle.
Well, I know what that's like. At least my driver finally cleaned mine out.
What's up with Mike?
Oh, take no notice of him, Thomas. He's an improper engine.
Improper? What do you mean?
He's got no whistle. It's shocking. We don't approve of engines without whistles, do we, Mike?
Oh, did someone boil an egg on it?
No, he got cross with the cow.
That's right. And all he had to do was say, boo.
Probably the best of the jokes, or the humor, is in Tit for Tat at the end, where Bert references not only the railway series, but the TV series as well. Mike and Rex laugh it off, thinking it's never gonna happen, but the real icing on the cake comes from the narrator when he tells this to the audience.
But it did happen, didn't it?
Not much else to say really. I will give them all a 10 out of 10. However, my personal favorite, is Mike's whistle. You know what they say?